Hey everybody, welcome to the channel today. And today I want to talk about my 20-year journey with sobriety and my struggles, the difficulties, and the transformation that I've had over the past 20 years. I don't think there's anything I get asked about more than my sobriety. Probably my sobriety and my relationship with having a living guru. I think people are always intrigued about that. And I'll make a video about that another time. But today, I want to talk about my journey with sobriety. I really want to be honest and vulnerable about this so that this can be of benefit to you. Where are you at in your journey of sobriety? Maybe you're still actively using, maybe you're in new recovery, or maybe you're 20, 30 plus years. And sobriety can be from a lot of things. It doesn't just have to be alcohol and drugs. It could be sex, pornography, shopping, food. There's so many addictions we have in our modern world. So my journey was with alcohol, and it began the night before my mother died. So much of my life revolves around the day my mom died, November 8th, 1992. And the night before, I drank for the first time, and I literally felt like a superhero. And then the next day she died, and I just honestly didn't know what else to do. And I looked around and I saw all the adults in my life, and I saw all the coolest kids in the school and the coolest kids in my town, in my county, and they all drank. So I just started drinking, and I was pretty good at it, to be honest. And I threw a lot of parties. We had a lot of really fun times at my parties in high school. My dad was really gracious enough to let us use the house, and they were super fun. There was another family when I went to King's Edgehill that they used to throw some really great parties as well, and we really had fun. It was almost like a movie, and I took so much pride in that. And then I went to France, and I didn't understand how they drank because no one was getting drunk. It was very confusing to me. But as soon as I got with the North Americans, we would get just so drunk. And then I went to university, and the same story over. I was the entertainment director. I was a beer rep, and the story just perpetuated itself everywhere I went. I brought that story with me. I was a party. And I remember I went to get back surgery when I was just after university, and they told me I couldn't drink for 6 months. And I looked at them and I said, 6 months? I said, that's impossible. You can't not drink for 6 months. And I left this office, and I never got the back surgery. And in the middle of university, I realized that I didn't really want to drink anymore. And I certainly didn't want to do drugs, just to keep me awake. But I didn't know what else to do. So I remember that it was so amazing to have that realization, and then to run away from it as fast as I could. And then I went and after university, moved to Halifax with some friends, and then that's when I met Sri Ravi Shankar in January of 2002. And then it became this wrestling match between like this beautiful journey of spirituality and meditation, and like drinking and doing drugs. And I used to feel honestly like a demon was taking over my body when I was getting high. So I stopped doing drugs, stopped doing speed, but then I would start blacking out after 2 or 3 drinks. And the last few times I drank, it was just awful. I had awful experience with one of my best friends, one of my roommates of like 7 years, and then one of my best friends in the whole world and his dad, and then another one of my best friends I grew up with, who I've known forever, at a wedding. It was ridiculous. And then I went to one of my closest friends in the world from university's wedding, and it was just embarrassing. And that was the night that I last drank. And so that was in August of 2003. Then I was in my dad's kitchen, and I was drinking a beer, and I looked up at the sky and I said, God, just help me through this, please. I don't know what to do, but I don't want to drink anymore. And I was so open, and I knew from that moment forward I would never drink again. And it was such a blessing. And I went to AA on the Saturday. That was a Wednesday when I stopped drinking. And I went to AA. It was like September 5th, 2003 is my sober anniversary. And my auntie, who really helped take care of me growing up and helped me like really learn about spirituality, she said, you have a beautiful path you can take with this wonderful man from South India who's just such a beautiful light to the world, or you can be a drunk, your choice. And then one of my other closest girlfriends in the world, she called me and she was like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, I know. I'm going to go to a meeting tonight. So I went in, and if you've ever been to an AA meeting, I had my baseball hat on, and I was pulled it way down. I just stared at my shoes the whole time. And I was just embarrassed to be there. I didn't know what else to do. I was just so embarrassed. Anyways, so I got sober. In that fall, I didn't really know what to do. I used to walk around all the time at nighttime because that's when everyone was drinking or doing drugs and I didn't know what else to do. And then I went to live in India, and I went and lived in India in 2004 to really see if the spiritual journey was for me. And it really felt like I had, found a second home. Like Windsor, Nova Scotia is my first home. And I think my second home is Bangalore, India, or Rishikesh, India. It's where I feel most comfortable. I love it over there, just like I love Nova Scotia so much. So I went over there and I just had such cool experiences, and I started to have fun, sober, and I was like, no one was drinking. Then I went to Goa, and I could tell stories about, I had one of the craziest days of my life there that should literally be like a movie. And I couldn't believe it was real, but I stayed sober the whole time. And I remember seeing a guy laying on the ground, and I was like, I'll never do that. I'll never drink ever again. Because it was just seeing this guy passed out in Goa. So yeah, I started living, and people would call me and they would ask me about being sober. And then I kind of got into a routine, of living as like a sober guy. But I still had a super bad temper. I used to yell at people all the time. It was awful, actually, to be honest. It's the thing I'm most embarrassed about in my whole life is my temper. I used to have such pride in it. And it was just so embarrassing looking back. So fast forward, that's when I first got sober, 2004. And so now later, I'm married. I'm in a relationship to my wife at the time. And I am just, everything in my life is going wrong. I quit my dream job. I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. We were having a terrible time in our relationship, which eventually led to a divorce. And I went down to California and I met a gentleman who turned out to be one of my closest friends in the world. And he said, let's go to a meeting. And I was like, oh God, I just didn't want to go to a meeting because I felt like meetings were like, after my 3 months in AA in 2004 was just sinking ship. Oh, I was the drunkest. I was this. It was just, I felt like it was a bunch of losers. So I went to this meeting and I kind of feel like I had two sobrieties. So I had my physical sobriety in 2004, and I spent so much time with Sri Ravi Shankar that I felt like I was like living those values. And I was doing a lot and I was really trying hard to do it, but my negatives were just so glaring. And, I said this once and I really believe it. Just because you're guru adjacent doesn't mean you can't be an asshole. And this is what I realized in September of 2019. So I went to a meeting, and this guy was looking at me in the meeting and some guy looked at me, he goes, if you haven't done the 12 steps after 16 years of being sober, you are guaranteed to be an asshole. And it just floored me. And I was like, wow, this is nuts. And I looked at my life, and then I went and spent time with this gentleman who, we're like buddies. He's kind of like my sponsor, but we're just really good friends. And he's, about, 30 years older than I am. And he's really helped me on my sober journey. He said, look, I'm just going to tell you your resume, like your wife and you don't get along really well. You don't have a job. You don't have any money. You're in debt. And you just seem really to be angry all the time, underlying, like, what's up? And he's like, I'm just telling you what I've seen after spending like 3 days with you. And it really, really got me. So then I went back I was living in Montreal at the time, and I started going to a meeting every day. I went to the 90 meetings in 90 days, and I did my 12 steps. And that's when I learned this word responsible. I was responsible for myself. I was responsible for my thoughts, feelings, speech, and action. And it was revolutionary. And I stopped blaming everybody else. I stopped blaming, the teachers from elementary school. And I stopped blaming my teachers in high school and the principals and the coaches and everybody else for my problems. And I took full responsibility. And it's been so beautiful to have that, to be honestly responsible for my thoughts, feelings, speech, and actions, and not putting it on everybody else, including my spiritual teacher, including my wife at the time, including anybody. Just, it's Mark and Mark only who's responsible for that. And the second part of that is being open. I've always believed in God. I've always loved Jesus. But it's just a little bit deeper than that, like just being open to be guided by this energy, God, the divine, Jesus, the universe, whatever you want to call it. So it was like one hand was taking full responsibility, and then the other hand was being completely open to be guided. And that's when everything in my life started to change. And then, COVID happened, and then I came back to Nova Scotia. And the promises of the 12 steps and the promises of the spiritual path is to be happy, joyous, and free. And I realize now that I am more happy, I am more joyous, I am more free. I'm more happy with what I'm doing. I'm more joyous in the moment, and I'm free from blaming others. And the gift I got from doing my 12 steps was responsibility, and responsibility for my thoughts, feelings, speech, and action. And it's been so beautiful. And now I'm in an amazing relationship. I feel like the nicest person I've ever been with. And probably not even that she's nice. I'm just not putting things on her. I'm taking responsibility. She's not responsible for my happiness. She's not responsible for my well-being. And we have the most beautiful relationship. I've never been in a relationship like this before. It's the most wonderful gift I've been given. And always in the videos I've talked about my dad. I have this amazing relationship with my father and my brothers. I have a great job. I've always struggled with finances my whole life, and I'm really coming to terms with that. And that's been really beautiful to come to terms with. And I've started to exercise and surf and all these things. And I'm open and I listen to the whisper. And there's so many of these little whispers that come, and that helps me, and I can connect with people. And I don't have an agenda when I go to see people anymore. So I don't know where you are in your journey, but know if you really dedicate yourself to sobriety, maybe check out breathing and meditation, check out Art of Living, check out the work of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, check out Sudarshan Kriya. Maybe that's for you. Check out the 12 steps of AA, check out sober coaching, check out anything, but find your way so that you can live more happy, joyous, and free, and have more responsibility in your life and have more openness in your life. This picture is kind of encapsulates everything. It's those open hands and taking full responsibility. It's both things at once. So your sober journey could be very difficult, and it might be very hard. But from my experience in my life, it is the greatest gift I've ever been given, is to be sober, physically, emotional, and spiritually, not blaming anybody else, finding my relationship with my higher power, being completely okay with that, being completely 100% open to anyone. Like, yes, I have a guru, and yes, I love him, and yes, I get so mad at him sometimes, but that's my journey. But what's your journey? I don't know, but look into it, find out what it is. I pray every day, and I love praying, and that's my thing, but maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your thing is gardening. I met a gentleman today, his favorite thing is to walk for hours in nature. But you find your thing and find your way to be sober and help yourself to be more open and responsible. And the gift that you get is being happy, joyous, and free. So thanks a lot for listening. I think I couldn't be more passionate about something, and I'm very happy to have shared this. Thank you so much. I'd really share some comments down below what your journey with your spirituality is, your sobriety is, or your spirituality, either one, and just share. And then also, like, subscribe the channel, and send some other suggestions, any other videos. And I really appreciate having the ability to do this and tell everyone my stories, because maybe it will help you in your journey, and you can be sober. And I've seen so many of my friends get sober, and I've helped so many people get sober, but not just physically, emotional and spiritual, all the parts of your person. And know you can do it, and be proud of yourself. It could be tough. It could be a struggle. You might think you could never do it, but I promise you, you can. And it is as cliched as it sounds. It is one day at a time, but it works if you work it, and it's worth it. I promise. Thanks so much for listening. Like and subscribe, leave comments below. And I really appreciate having this opportunity to share this with you. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.